I'm going to welcome everybody this afternoon and thank them for coming out, and my daughter Libby, Justine, Taylor, and Gabby, and for giving up your afternoon. I know y'all had some homework to do, but I promised to feed you with this one and hope you enjoy an easy recipe, something you can make at home when your parents are gone, and thank you. And it's healthy and low fat, so if you'll again, thanks for coming out, and Vepra again for filming this and giving me pretty much her entire day. So I appreciate that very much. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make homemade tomato soup, and this is a first because nobody outside my family has this recipe. My mom made it up when I was little, and everybody I've ever made it for has absolutely loved it, except those who don't like tomatoes. And so if you don't like tomatoes, then I'll excuse you just this once. So other than that, you're just going to have to eat it. So, okay, tomato, it's all in the soup, and then of course you can't have tomato soup without grilled cheese sandwiches, and you might think it might be easy to make grilled cheese sandwiches, but there is an art to it, and I'm going to show you how to do that also. So, key ingredients for the soup, very simple ones, however, it's not actually the ingredients that make the soup, it's how you're actually going to make it, and I'll show you how to do that at a later point. So again, you need butter or margarine, flour, milk, tomato juice, pepper, sugar, and salt. Again, simple ingredients, but you have to do it a certain way or it doesn't turn out. And then, of course, the sandwiches: sliced bread, spreadable butter, and sliced cheese. We prefer sharp cheddar. Have whatever you want. And some people, we've added tomatoes in it, different Italian seasonings. So however you want to make it, we're just going to stick with the regular sharp today because that seems to taste the best with the tomato soup. Okay, how it's done: you're going to take a medium saucepan, and there's two key parts to this. You're going to take the butter and the flour and you're going to melt them, and you're going to whisk them together, making sure they don't burn, and whisk them into a paste. Now if you just melt them together and you don't do this step, you might as well throw everything out because the whole soup's going to be a mess. And then once you get to that paste and it looks really good and creamy, you're going to very, very slowly whisk in a little bit of milk at a time, and you're going to beat it constantly until it becomes kind of a cream. Again, these are the two crucial parts. If you don't mix the butter and the flour together and melt them like this, and then if you don't go on and whisk the milk very slowly to a cream, you're going to end up with a bunch of big chunks in your soup, and you might as well, again, throw it out and start all over. And then at the end, you just add the rest and heat it. So, very simple. Again, slowly. And then the sandwiches, very simple, but if you don't do it right, they're not going to turn out. You heat the skillet medium, you take a piece of bread and you put the butter on one side and wait till it's hot enough and drop it on. Put a slice of cheese on top of it, butter only one side of the second piece of bread, and put it butter side up. So you have a butter side down and a butter side up. When it's grilled, flip it over and make sure cheese melts. But I've seen people try to do this in the microwave and it doesn't work. You have to grill it. So, and make sure everything stays on medium or you're going to burn everything. So, we're going to move over to the stove and start the whole process. I don't even know how to
go.
Okay. Okay, I want to welcome you back to the kitchen. Again, we went over some stuff on the PowerPoint, but here is the real deal. So I'm going to start from the very beginning, and we're going to work our way all the way to the end and have a great meal. So, first, again, I've got two different pots. I've got a medium saucepan, and you're going to need a fry pan for the grilled cheese. So this will be in a few minutes, so we're going to focus on this for now. So I said the key ingredients are pretty simple, and we're going to start with the milk and the flour. And at each, you just need a quarter cup of each of them. That's easy to remember. So you just get your margarine, and you need quarter cup, which is 4 tablespoons. So we're just going to take that. And a quarter cup is 4 tablespoons. So you cut it pretty much in half. Just a regular butter knife. Drop it in. And then the flour is very important. You want a quarter cup of flour. So measure it out. Dump it in there. So here's you want to whisk it. As I said, turn it on, medium heat, and let it start to melt a bit. Now this will take a few minutes, so we're probably going to cut out and then come back in once it starts to melt some more. As you can see, I've got the butter and the flour, and it's looking a lot like a paste. So making sure it's all good. So I'm going to turn the heat down at this point. And then we get 2 cups of milk. I use skim milk just to be a little healthier, but you can use whatever you like. Okay. Again, another key part. The 2 key parts, making sure that you have the paste together, and then this, you want to very slowly. So I'm just going to add a little, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to whisk it. And whisk it into a cream, and make sure it's not chunky. So when I get to that point, a little bit more. Because the worst thing it is, it's just pretty gross to take a bite of soup or take a sip of soup and get nothing but a big chunk of flour and butter. So you make sure you whisk it really, really well. So there are no chunks left in there.
But there are no chunks left in there.
Yeah, add a little bit more. So keep whisking it. And turn the heat up just a little bit to about a medium high at this point. Because what you want to do is you're going to whisk it and whisk it because you don't want the milk to curdle. Okay, it's good enough now that I'm going to add the rest of it, getting rid of all of the chunks. And you just keep whisking it slowly, adding the milk until it gets to a boil. And that might take a few minutes, but you've got to keep whisking it so you don't scald the milk at the bottom of the pot. And just keep whisking. So I'm going to slow it down and just make sure I've got all the flour and the butter mixed in. So you don't stop whisking it. Now at this point, if you wanted to go ahead and start, getting ready for the grilled cheese sandwiches, you can. I'm going to wait a few minutes to make sure that I've got this taken care of, because we've only got a few people. But if you're providing for a whole bunch of people, like I have 4 brothers, then I would start right now making the sandwiches. And for that, I use whole wheat bread, and you can use whatever bread you want.
The cheese out of the fridge.
Sharp cheddar, because that's what my family likes. But you can use Havarti, you can use Swiss, you can use whatever you want. So does anybody have any questions at this point?
Well, I noticed that you put the butter and the milk in there. Did you wait for the butter to melt?
You can really do it either way. You can melt the butter first and then add the flour. I'll put the butter in and let it melt, just start to melt. But I haven't noticed a difference in doing it either way. But just to make sure, the key part of it is making sure that you've got that good paste good, that all the flour is covered and the butter is melted together. Because if you don't get it right at the beginning and then you add everything else, you're just going to end up with chunks.
Chunks.
Yeah, and you don't want tomato soups.
No.
Not unless you plan it that way. So again, we're getting to the point where it's almost to a boil. And you notice I didn't stop whisking it, because if you burn it at the bottom, milk just burns really easily.
Can you go over what ingredients you have in there already?
Okay, what I have in here already is simply, again, we started with a 1/4 cup of milk and a 1/4 cup of butter. Melted them together into a paste, and once they were all together in a paste, very slowly, I probably added a 1/4 cup of milk in the beginning, whisked it really well to get rid of the chunks, added a little bit, another 1/4 milk, whisked it really well, just making